So I'm sure you heard by now the premiere of the new show, Southern Fried Rice, that centers an Asian girl going to a HBCU, which kind of sounds like it could have been layered, but honestly ended up just being tone deaf. But this isn't about just one show. This is about how blackness continues to be exploited, distorted, and erased in modern media. Not just by outsiders, but sometimes by our own support. So let's unpack why representation has become a performance and why we keep letting it happen. So first, I really want to dive deep into representation versus exploitation. Y'all, just because a show has a full black cast or majority black cast or hire black workers does not mean that it's not exploiting our community. Look at Zeus Network. That is a black production company, that is a black media outlet, and it is nothing but exploitation to our community. It is nothing but negative press to our community. It has such a negative influence on younger people and the idea of social media and just so many things. So many things, that the violence, all of that. But I digress with Zeus Network. So I hate the defense of, oh, if a show has a full black cast and it's hiring black people and it's employing black people, then you know that's a representation, that's giving back to the community, that's doing right by the community. No. When the greater effect is actually hurting the community. Say you hired 100 black people for the production of this show. What about the thousands or millions of people that it affects if it's exploiting our community? And what's so disappointing, but honestly not surprising with celebrities anymore, is that KeKe Palmer was the producer of this TV show, and the creator, supposedly a black mixed woman, really wants to share this experience and tell this story about an Asian person being censored when she's not Asian. I just think it's so upsetting that as a community, we do not value being represented in a way that uplifts, that empowers, that honestly just provides decent entertainment. Everything doesn't have to have a deep message, but it doesn't need to be exploitive, and it doesn't need to center other races. The Asian community in the last 5 to 10 years, they've definitely been getting a lot more exposure, opportunities, and just outlets to tell their stories that I don't think we as black people need to do that. And yes, we can include Asian people in our media because we have Asian friends, we have Asian family members, we have all these things. There are Blasian people. But I don't think that we should be trying to center another race, especially when we're having the person attend a historically black college. And it just undermines why we even started historically black colleges and universities. I know that non-black people go to HBCUs, but the whole point of a HBCU was so that black people could feel safe. They could learn, they could network, they could grow, they could build community with black people. I don't want to be one of those people where there's an agenda, but I do feel like in the recent 5 to 7 years, there has been a push to really minimize black expression, black music, black outlets. There's just been such a push of regressing when it comes to the exposure of blackness in media and TV and music and film and art, all these things. We had it in the 90s, we had it in the early 2000s, and they're like, nope, you don't need that anymore. Even when you listen to music and everything, there's no real deep music. There's no real deep rappers. There's no real messages. Besides a Kendrick Lamar and maybe a J. Cole here and there, there's no one that labels or that these executives want to push that really is showcasing a positive message for black people. And even when you look at somebody like Tyler Perry, he does not care at all about exploiting black people to get that dollar. He will make fun of black women. He will use every stereotype in the book. He will always make it about either trauma or despair. We never can have joy. It's always just very chaotic scripts. And also just the fact that he's just the one person that writes these stories, it's also just not a natural, organic, real feel. It also just lacks authenticity. It feels like I'm just gonna push out any content that I know these black people are gonna watch. They gonna buy it anyway, they gonna watch it anyway, and they feel at the core, just because it's a black cast, that I should support it anyway. And I really want us as black people to start changing our mind about that. We need to think a little bit deeper on how we want to use the powers of media, because at the end of the day, America is a propaganda place. It was built on Hollywood, and you still see so much propaganda being used right now. Many of us in the black community underestimate the power of media and how us allowing exploitation, us allowing somebody like Tyler Perry to become a billionaire, and how that's been really detrimental to our representation, how people view us, the push of stereotypes. Because when you don't see yourself in media, when you don't see yourself in art, when you don't see your stories being told, you tend to devalue yourself. And we as a community, we do that. The black community does have a way of devaluing its own, self-hating its own, not pushing its own, not encouraging its own. And regardless of all that, there are so many black stories to tell. We as black people are such a dynamic group. We influence so much of the culture that I just think it's odd that any black person would choose to not center us. I just don't get that. What about Blackness is so that you don't want to center it? So I didn't watch Southern Fried Rice. I watched the trailer, and then I also watched recaps of people describing what the episodes were about, and some of my friends watched it and gave me a little tea on the first episode. The fact that her black friend was pregnant and she couldn't go to college, but that's not even a true thing. Black women that are pregnant go to college. I have friends at Ohio State that were pregnant, had their baby in college, and got their degree. Some of them graduated before me, graduated in 3 years. So what we're not going to do is sit here and act like black girls are not the most educated and that they still wouldn't go to college. Other things I heard, the antagonist of the show is a dark-skinned black girl. So it's just like, why? And then also, they're just like highlighting the black man and how she's so invested in the black man. Like, girl, like I can't. And that KeKe got online and basically didn't take any type of responsibility or accountability for the show. I'll play the clip now.
Guys, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to chop it up real quick about this series called Southern Fried Rice that's premiering on KeyTV. That is receiving some controversial feedback. Now, Southern Fried Rice was created by Nakia Stevens, and while I can't speak to her inspiration for the show, I can speak to her dedication as a creative. I mean, Nakia has written, show-ran, and produced 4 shows alongside her Damn Right Originals team with KeyTV. And KeyTV has proudly invested over $500,000 on her creations. And I say that because it's not easy to obtain that kind of investment. And KeyTV, this is the ethos of the company. It's a network not just because it has stars and shows or has talent, but because it's about the people who create the shows and connecting them. Look, what you like is subjective, but the support of black creatives is not. And it's a task that KeyTV takes on with pride, because if you want to be a creative, you have to be able to create. And that takes money. And it's KeyTV's mission to find the funds for you to be in practice, for you to experience trial and error, and to take your projects off the page and get more than one chance to do it in action. So whether you like it all or some or none, I say give these creatives a chance to grow as we continue to grow in supporting them. So God bless you guys.
And see, that's what the problem is now. Representation is not just about employing black people. It's about telling the stories that are actually authentic to the black experience. It's about empowering black people. It's about centering black people. That's what representation is for. It has so much power than you think. And you have to remember that a lot of these celebrities just lack critical thought. When it comes to just like reality and like the actual world, they are just so disconnected. And one thing about this too showed me how disconnected celebrities are. Like, a lot of us liked KeKe Palmer because she was down to earth and we feel like she could relate to us. She was our age as millennials and we saw her grow up. Most recent years, her disguise has started to crack. It just seems like she's somebody that lacks depth, somebody that lacks critical thought, and honestly doesn't really care about the critiques of others. And honestly, someone who's not even going to take accountability for her role in the fact that these projects are getting made. So the next thing I want to touch on is how erasure is disguised as inclusion. So there will be media that's created, but it's created from like the white perspective, or it's created for the white audience. So at the end of the day, we may have a black movie, a black show, a black book, a black whatever, but if it's being told from the white perspective, then that's really not representation and that's really not inclusion. Because how are you as a non-black person telling the black experience, telling the black story? Now, if it's something historic, that's a little bit different. But still, I still think a black person should be telling a black story. And just because we have actors in certain movies and certain TV shows, that doesn't mean that inclusion is actually happening. And we all know that because of the whole election and Trump and everything, we all know diversity and inclusion is not a focus anymore, that people are not focusing on taking pride in inclusion and taking pride in having actual true diversity. So we also are up against that. So it's just really frustrating where we're up against all these systemic things and societal things that on top of it, our own community doesn't think it's our priority to make sure our voices get heard, to make sure that we are represented correctly, and to make sure that we actually are included in a real way, included with authentic voices from black people. These are the people that are getting the money to produce TV shows. These are the people that are getting the coin to create. Tyler Perry is the one that has multiple studios and a movie or TV show out every week. Zeus is a media outlet that has millions of followers joining and watching every day from around the globe. So at times it really just feels like we are at odds as black people, that we are not really in true communities together because we are allowing all this exploitation to happen. And it just shows how capitalism never really was meant for us. Consumerism and capitalism, it was never meant to serve us, because every step of the way, even black people, they will exploit black people. They will tarnish the history of blackness. They will diminish our value, diminish our stories, all for $1, all for some money, all for a coin. So I need for us as black people to get out the spell, for us to get out the brainwashing and actually be like, you know what, we can do better. So these are some things I just feel like we do as black people that we need to adjust. We love to amplify some mediocre shit. Tyler Perry Productions at this point are trash. Zeus Network is trash. There is no reason that we should be supporting nonsense like that. I'm sorry, there's none. Even when you try to take Tyler Perry seriously, he does something in a film or a TV show that just doesn't make sense. And also, it's just not entertaining. His scripts are horrible. Like, he's not that dude. We need to support creators, filmmakers, authors, people that actually have an authentic voice and actually want to spread real stories from black people. When it comes to critiquing, I don't understand why we as people cannot critique media. People act like you're trying to ruin the black community. No, if you're black or white or whatever, it should be allowed to be critiqued. Even just having a perspective of how something could be better or why we didn't go this route, that just opens the door for more opportunities for us to make better media, for us to drive deeper discussions, for us to see the nuance in things. Why not be open to that? I just don't get why people think if you critique something, you just hate the whole idea, or you just hate everybody, and you want them to be canceled, and you hate them. It can lead to that when people are not receiving and they continue to exploit. Yes, it can become this like, oh my God, I'm over them, I want them out, I want them to stop. But at the end of the day, initially critique is so that we can have discussions, so that maybe next time we can see a different perspective, or maybe next time we can hire that person that actually has a more authentic voice when it comes to the black community. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, that was my third point, was to basically support authentic creators, support people that actually want to share a real voice and a real story for black people, because like I said, there's so many black stories that have been untold. So there's no lacking of black stories, so let's continue to center black people in black stories. So overall, if you guys agree with these thoughts, if you disagree with these thoughts, if you want to have a deeper conversation, please drop a comment. Let me know what your thoughts were about the trailer. If you watched the show, let me know what you thought about Southern Fried Rice. Also, just what do you think about Tyler Perry? What do you think about the state of media right now when it comes to movies, music, TV shows, all the things? And I'm just going to wrap this up by saying, you know, Southern Fried Rice, I hope the creators, I hope even KeKe Palmer can really receive what we're saying about this show. At the end of the day, it's one example of how media is sanitizing, erasing, trying to just whitewash and just wipe away blackness and wipe away our value and wipe away our importance. So even if that show is fixed, it's not going to solve the huger problem. I think we as the black community, we need to make sure that we are using our dollar for control. We are using our views as control. Because ultimately, we deserve stories that are complex, that are nuanced, that are joy, that are sadness, that are scary, that are funny, that are all the things. They're authentic to blackness and the black experience and to black people. If you're new here and you're enjoying this content, please subscribe. I drop videos weekly and really love building a community here on YouTube. So as always, do your best to stay safe, stay positive, and I will see you on the next video.